Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ian Maxwell. I'm the Group Manager of Resource Management, so I head the group of staff who are involved in the regulatory process that Andrew mentioned just earlier. So this presentation really gives a high-level view of the regulatory framework, the process that the Council works through. So for the councillors, it's going to be old news, and for many of you in the room, it's probably stuff that you may not already know.
Just notes handed to me. Just in case of an emergency, run like hell. No, that's not right. Please, in an orderly fashion, make use of the exits, and a muster area will be at our large Mohaka rock, which is situated out the front. Don't panic though, this is the head of Hawke's Bay's Civil Defence, so I'm sure we can find a way to get us through it if the need arises. Thank you.
Can everybody see the screen okay? Is it? We need to turn the lights down. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. There's some room around the floor around here. Would people like to come and sit on the floor or outside?
Possibly. There is a ceiling of numbers though, Councillor Rem, as well, which we may be exceeding, okay, for safety reasons.
Right, so as Andrew had mentioned, this presentation's in two parts, so I'm going to run through the introductory parts with a high-level overview of Council functions. So Council has primarily statutory functions in this process. Role to assess effects of resource use activities and to ensure that effects are avoided, remedied or mitigated through appropriate conditions and resource consents. Guiding the Council in that process is the Regional Resource Management Plan, which Council uses to achieve its functions and achieve the purpose of the RMA. The Regional Plan contains a policy and rule framework that helps us in this process. Council must have regards to the Regional Plan and provisions in the Regional Plan when considering resource consent applications. So the Regional Plan takes on a life as a regulation for the Resource Management Act. So that's all the technical speak. So that gives you the statutory sort of framework that we work under. So really where the rubber meets the road is the consenting process. When an application is received, at that point a full assessment of what consents may be required, what notification is appropriate will occur. And the Regional Resource Management Plan will give direction for this process, as I outlined earlier. It provides the framework by which some of this assessment occurs. As part of a consent application process, applicants must provide a detailed assessment of environmental effects, otherwise known as an AEE. As staff, we then take the application and the associated AEE and we review it with internal staff, technical staff, planning staff, consent staff, and we're required also bring in external expertise where we're lacking it in Council or where we need additional information. During this process, all costs are recoverable against the applicant. So it's a full cost recovery process. In terms of the process we're talking about this afternoon, at this point, no applications have been received by Council, although we have entered into what we call a pre-application process. So I'll just cover that off now as well. So pre-application processes, they're not compulsory. Some applicants choose them to try and streamline the process, if you like, to try and make it more efficient, more effective. So engagement occurs before any formal applications are lodged, and they work with staff to clarify aspects of their application for staff to indicate where information is deficient or what other information may be required to allow the consent to be processed. So that's occurring with this application or with this process. We're into that stage now. And like the formal consent process, it's a fully cost recoverable process, so all costs are recovered from the applicant. Once an application has been received, we go through a notification assessment. One of the main factors in determining whether notification is required is the test of whether the effects on the environment of the activity are likely to be more than minor, and whether there are any special circumstances that justify public notification. And I just stress that in that it's the effects on the environment that relates to the activity that consent is required for. The notification assessment generally follows 3 key points. First of all, what are the effects, including the potential effects? That's a fairly common assessment that's done in most applications. Are they likely to be more than minor? And again, that's an assessment that's fairly routinely done in most applications. And then less commonly is an assessment of whether there are any special circumstances that relate to the application. So a notification assessment occurs after an application has been received. And I'll stress again that at this point no application has been received. I think it's probably understating it to say that this is technically quite a complex area, and we acknowledge that, and we've been working to bridge those gaps and bring our understanding up to required levels. Recognising that it's not feasible for council to have that sort of expertise in-house. Gisborne District Council and Horizons, who are also engaged in these sorts of discussions, have engaged the Institute of Geological and Nuclear Sciences to provide specific scientific expertise in this process. The Council has also initiated a fact-finding trip to British Columbia to talk to their regulators. They're recognised internationally as being the centre of excellence in terms of regulatory frameworks and approaches, so we've taken the initiative to go and upskill ourselves from those who have gone before us. Internally, we have capability around a range of aspects that relate to this sort of application, particularly water quality, ground and surface water, groundwater modelling and contaminated land. And finally, we don't work in isolation in these sorts of matters. Typically, most of the technical staff and councils work across boundaries. They engage in regular forums, special interest groups, and of particular relevance to this application of the Groundwater Forum, the Land Monitoring Forum, the Surface Water Integrated Management Forum, and also there's a proposal ahead of us to develop a regional sector group again, so that's across regional councils across the country, common approach for regulatory management for this type of application. So recognising that it would make little sense to have hugely differing approaches to a common issue across the country. So that's all I have at this point.
Right, thank you. I'll hand over now to Alex.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question before you do hand over? Thank you, Mr. Maxwell, for briefing us on the council's role, which I would say is new to me. But this particular, that was just to actually identify what our role is. This particular briefing that we're about to hear has nothing to do with the application for consent, has it? This is a briefing on their activities in this area.
Yes, you're correct, and my apologies, I should have pointed out right from the outset, I had it in my notes here to do so. This Briefing is for information only. It doesn't constitute consultation in any form or sense to council. This is purely a presentation for information to allow council to understand where we're at in the process and what's ahead of it in terms of what's proposed from TAG and Apache.
Councillor Dick.
Can you just confirm that, in fact, exploration rights are not within the jurisdiction of the regional council? My understanding is that they are.
Microphone, please.
Please speak up for us.
Yeah.
Sorry, my question was to perhaps have confirmation that the issue of exploration rights or the granting of exploration rights is not within the jurisdiction of the regional council.
That's correct.
That is the matter that is in the domain of the government.
That's correct. It's, Mr. Lawrence might be able to expand or see that it's in the domain of the Ministry of Economic Development. Certainly not a function of the regional councils.
Correct, that is issued by Ministry of Economic Development. Yesterday we had our first meeting as a whole of government approach to make sure every agency that's going to be involved in these processes is aware of what everyone's doing, and part of that is the government agencies that have responsibility actually informing the public of New Zealand incorporated's